Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 8 of the Big Fight Feel podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 8 of the Big Fight Feel podcast. I am Joseph Conlin. On Sunday, May 9th, 2021. Today is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to my mom and all the mothers out there in the wrestling community. We are going to end the week off pretty strong today. It's episode 8 of the Big Fight Feel podcast. Monday Night Raw. It's by far the worst television show in wrestling. I have to address the state of Monday Night Raw today. I was going to do it last week. Didn't do a podcast last week. I think today I'm going to have to address Monday Night Raw. Also, AEW Blood and Guts was labeled as a bad image for the industry by somebody in WWE. What a joke with some of the stuff that they have on Raw and SmackDown. We'll talk about it today. All of this and so much more on episode 8 of the Big Fight Feel podcast. And I thank you all for joining me today. Like I said in the intro, happy Mother's Day to my mom, who does so much for me. She really does. And to all of the mothers and the women in the wrestling community, happy Mother's Day to all of you as well. And I hope you are having a fabulous day. And I hope you all picked to come watch the Big Fight Feel podcast on your Mother's Day. Just sit back, relax, have your favorite drink. I don't have one with me today, but just sit back, relax, listen to episode 8 of the Big Fight Feel podcast. We're going to get a lot to get into. We're going to talk about a lot of AEW on the channel today. Monday Night Raw. The Dark Side of the Ring documentary thoughts on Brian Pillman. And the future plans on Monday Night Raw for RK Bro. Excuse me. Future plans for RK Bro on Monday Night Raw. So if you are a fan of RK Bro, you are going to want to listen to this. But we will dive into everything in the podcast today. Before we do, we are doing great this week. This was a really great week for the Big Fight Field channel. I thank all of you so much. Got over 400 subscribers. Started the week with, I believe, 398. We are over 400 now. We're at 402. Be sure to continue to hit that subscribe button, man. We're only getting better and better here each week, each podcast on the Big Fight Field channel. I thank you all very, very much. But every review this week, I believe, got over 100 views. Monday Night Raw, NXT, AEW, and SmackDown all did fabulous this week. And I thank you all so much for that. You deserve a round of applause for tuning into the content, all the reviews this week. I appreciate all of you, man. I really do. You don't know how much I support my fans. A lot of people say, how much I support them, just to go out there and say it. But for what I'm doing now at the end of school year, heading into prom and graduation, it's a lot. And you guys coming in clutch during the week, watching the reviews, giving your feedback. I love it, man. I absolutely love it. And we're going to continue to do it here on the Big Fight Field channel. So I thank you all so much. Let's start the podcast, man. let's start it with the main topic of discussion. Like I said, I was going to talk about it last week, but I decided to take the weekend off. But I have to talk about it this week, and that is the state of Monday Night Raw. Oh, man. First off, I got a lot to say about this. But first off, I just want to go ahead and say this. I do not hate on Monday Night Raw to be funny, to get people to laugh. I mean, I want to entertain people a lot, but it's not to get people to laugh. It's not to, I always make fun of Monday Night Raw, but I don't want to do it on purpose. What I'm basically trying to say is I don't criticize on the show just for views, likes, comments, all that stuff. I am a 12-year fan of professional wrestling. WWE is how I got into wrestling. You ask almost everybody. You can ask almost everybody how you got yourself into wrestling. And most of the time they're going to say by watching WWE. That's how I got into wrestling. And that's how I got into wrestling. I love WWE. I really do. I love the WWE. I love their superstars, besides a select few. I love the guys on SmackDown, on NXT. I like Raw. Some of the superstars on Raw. I applaud the wrestlers who go out there on a weekly basis and we bring them into our livelihood. We bring these wrestlers on a Monday night, on a Friday night, and on a Tuesday night. We bring these wrestlers into our home every single week, and they are larger-than-life characters. They are larger-than-life characters, and they put their bodies on the line every week on national television for us. That I appreciate. So with that aspect, this is not shitting on the wrestlers, besides a select few that obviously you guys don't know I don't like. Braun Strowman, Nia Jax. We can go on, but I'm not going to do that today. This is not what it's about. I appreciate the wrestlers who go out there and they put their bodies on the line every Monday night. Okay? They have a great roster. Monday Night Raw has a good roster. But the problem, really, the problem with Monday Night Raw since, I believe, 2018, for me, was the creative, the writing, and the booking on this show is downright horrendous. It is horrendous. There is so much stuff on Monday Night Raw that I can go on and on. I'll give you a few things that I just cannot stand about Monday Night Raw. First thing, the show is 3 hours. The show drags every single Monday night. It drags, man. It really is. It's a struggle. It really is. If you ask people in the wrestling community, it is a struggle to sit down and watch 3 straight hours of Monday Night Raw. It really is a struggle. It's not easy. I can easily sit there and watch 2 hours of NXT. I can easily sit there and watch 2 hours of AEW. I can sit there and watch 2 hours of SmackDown and not get bored. But 3 hours of Monday Night Raw with some of the stuff they have on the shows is not fun. It's not fun. So that is problem number one with Monday Night Raw. It is 3 hours. It is way too long for a weekly television show. Another problem that I have with Monday Night Raw is this show, it's literally the same thing every single week. We get the same exact thing on Raw. It is terrible. I will give you an example. A couple weeks ago, we saw a handicap match. This was on the April 19th episode of Monday Night Raw, okay? We saw a handicap match. It was Drew McIntyre against Mace and T-Bar. Braun Strowman comes out and makes that a tag team match. The following week, they advertised the same tag team match that we just got the following week, but they clickbait you and they make it a handicap match with Mace and T-Bar against Braun Strowman. Drew McIntyre comes out and he makes it a tag team match. Do you guys see what I'm trying to say here? It is literally the same exact stuff every single week. It's the show is the same format as well. You have a 15-minute promo. Okay, they go to commercial. Have a 15-minute match. Let's do a promo. Come back from commercial. Have a match. Have another match. Backstage segment. It's so basic. And it just shows that you're not trying. And that's another problem with the show, too, is they're not trying at all. They are trying to make a mockery. Trying to make a legit mockery out of Monday Night Raw. How do I know this? They're insulting the adults, the teenagers, 18 plus years old, who watch Raw, and they realize this show is being written for literally 5-year-olds. 5-year-olds. You got hopscotch, and I will talk about this on one of the topics later I have. I'm going to rant. I'm not going to rant, but I'm going to be heated about this, about the AEW label as a bad image. Holy shit. I cannot wait to get into that. It's probably what I'm going to talk about next, actually. But we see hopscotch and slime and Miz and Morrison dressed up as bunnies and game night and tomatoes, throwing tomatoes. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. It shows that they are writing for little children. This show is written directly for little children who are under the age of 9 years old. 9 years old. I'm not even joking, man. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Meanwhile, there's probably not even a lot of children who sit down for 3 hours and watch Monday Night Raw. You're going to have the adults. You're going to have the adults who sit down and watch Raw for 3 hours, and they're going to have to suffer through your garbage. And then I can go on and on. But the last thing I am going to say is a problem with Monday Night Raw is the main event scene is so boring right now. It is literally the same guys in the same position all the time. If this show needs anything, this show needs a new... They need fresh faces. They need to smash the reset button as hard as they can. Seriously. I love Drew McIntyre, but Drew McIntyre has been in the WWE Championship picture for a year and a half now. Since pre-pandemic. In January 2020. I love Drew McIntyre, but I don't want to see Drew McIntyre in the WWE Championship picture after WrestleMania Backlash. Why? Because he's been there for way too long. Who else? Randy Orton in the same spot. I mean, Randy Orton's working with Riddle right now, but you guys know what I mean. It's literally the same people getting the opportunities, and quite frankly, man, I'm just so sick of it. Monday Night Raw is the worst wrestling show in the world. I don't mean that. I don't mean that to be funny. I'm like, I criticize Monday Night Raw because me as a fan, I want it to get better. I want to be able to sit down and be like, I'm interested to see what's going to happen on Raw tonight. Not sit down and be like, oh, great, here we go. I'm going to waste another 3 hours while I go look at the color red. I don't like that feeling. And quite frankly, the only reason I do watch Monday Night Raw is because of this. It's because of this channel and for the reviews. And with the views, people are legit curious as to what do I have to say about the show. So that's why I review Monday Night Raw here on the channel on a weekly basis. And as bad as it is, as uncreative as it is, as boring as it is, I keep planning on reviewing. I'm going to keep planning on reviewing this show for the foreseeable future, heading into the summer. So I just had to get that off my chest. It's just so terrible. And the laziness, they already advertised matches for tomorrow's Raw. They have the New Day teaming up with RK Bro to face AJ Styles, Omos, Elias, and Jackson Riker. I wonder where this came from. Last week, they were probably like, oh, you know what? Last week, we need stuff for this show. Last week, we saw the New Day versus AJ Styles and Omos for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Last week, we also saw RK Bro versus Elias and Jackson Riker. Well, how about, I don't know, how about we just put them together, one big match, we'll make it an 8-man tag. How creative is that? That is literally the same thing we saw last week, except you're combining both tag team matches into one match to make it an 8-man tag. How about this one? We have seen Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler feud with Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke on Monday Night Raw. Charlotte and Asuka is also going to be in a triple threat match at WrestleMania Backlash. Well, how about we put two feuds together and make it a 6-man tag? Let's put Charlotte with Nia and Shayna, and we'll put them up against Asuka, Mandy Rose, and Dana Brooke. How exciting does that sound, folks? How exciting does that sound? Golly. That is my, that's my rant about Monday Night Raw. We are going to get started on the next article here. AEW Blood and Guts was labeled as a bad image for the industry. I'm going to have fun with this one, man. I'm going to have fun with this one. So, according to the reports, several people backstage in WWE thought the Blood and Guts match was barbaric, considering how much blood was spilled by almost every wrestler in the match. The report adds that the tenured member of the creative team said it was a bad image for the industry, especially the obvious blading. Ringside News also added that some felt that Chris Jericho is trying to become Shane McMahon by falling off of high things. Oh my God, this is giving me a headache. I don't even, do you guys know how stupid this sounds? First of all, WWE shouldn't be talking because they pretty much gave AEW this name. Vince McMahon was on a conference call a couple years ago. He's like, I don't think TNT is going to allow them to do blood and guts. Have blood and guts, you know? He literally said that on a conference call. I don't think TNT will allow that sort of blood and guts. So, you basically gave AEW the name to the match, okay? Number two, how is this match a bad image on professional wrestling where you have 5 guys going out there to literally kill each other and they put on a excellent blood and guts match, probably my favorite AEW match of the year, next to the Lights Out match with Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. This was probably the best match in AEW this year, next to that. And then three. How can this be labeled as a bad image if this is much better than the stuff we see on Monday Night Raw? So let me get this straight. Let me get this straight with you guys. Hopscotch. Doing hopscotch on a professional wrestling show is not a bad image. Slime, dumping slime on a power lifter is not a bad image. Adults, grown adults, dressing up in bunny costumes is not a bad image. Playing around and throwing tomatoes at other professional wrestlers. No, not sport entertainers. Professional wrestlers is not a bad image. Monday Night Raw is not a bad image to professional wrestling. Okay, whatever you say. This article gave me a headache the minute I read about it. I mean, this was absolutely ridiculous to read. How does somebody in the WWE even have the balls to say that? Seriously, man, unbelievable. But we might as well continue on the AEW news here on the podcast today. Let's talk about the ratings for this past Wednesday's Blood and Guts show, which resulted in a 1.09 rating and They were, for the first time ever, they were the #1 televised show on Wednesday night. They were the #1 televised show in the United States. That is pretty damn awesome. That is absolutely amazing. Good on AEW for that, man. I'm sure everybody in the back, production, Tony Khan, Cody Rhodes, everybody who took part of the show was absolutely thrilled with that. And it was a great show, too. Blood and Guts Wednesday night was a great show, and it turned out to be, I thought it was a big success. I loved the show. People still bitching about the main event, which, I mean, I'm done with that. It's over. Okay, move on. Worry about next week and what's going to happen then. But I thought this was a great show. They absolutely deserve this. They're putting on great television, and they have been hitting home runs week after week, and you know what? I love it. I absolutely love it. What did we see on Wednesday night? Let's do a quick recap of what we got on Wednesday night for it to be the #1 televised show in the United States. We saw Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa versus Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston, which resulted in a victory for Moxley and Kingston. And then after the match, they were attacked by the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers, and making that match between Moxley and Kingston and the Young Bucks all but confirmed for Double or Nothing. We saw Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall. This was a really good match. Both guys are really good at what they do. This was probably the best thing in the rivalry between the Nightmare Family and the Factory right now. But Cody Rhodes taps out QT Marshall with the figure 4. After the match, Anthony Ogogo laid out Cody with a gut punch. And Wednesday night on Dynamite, Cody is set to make an announcement on what he is going to be doing at the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. And considering what we saw on Wednesday night, maybe before Blood and Guts, the pay-per-view match was going to be Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall. But it looks like now they're going to go with Cody Rhodes and Anthony Ogogo. So that's what I expect to be announced on Wednesday's Dynamite for Double or Nothing. That what Cody will be doing at Double or Nothing will be a match against boxer Anthony Ogogo. So that's that. We saw Darby Allin thrown off top of stairs, thrown downstairs by Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. He is set to defend the TNT Championship Wednesday night against Miro, which Miro should 100% be winning the TNT Championship. After that, we saw Britt Baker in action. She got her win, and she's challenging Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship at Double or Nothing. We also saw SCU win the #1 contender tag team match against the Jurassic Express, the Varsity Blondes, and the Acclaimed. They're going on to challenge the Young Bucks for the tag team titles on Wednesday night, AEW Dynamite. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be their last match ever as a tag team. And then we saw Orange Cassidy confront Kenny Omega, Miro make his match official with Darby Allin, and we saw The Pinnacle survive Blood and Guts after the Inner Circle Sammy Guevara surrendered, and then Chris Jericho was shoved off the top of the Blood and Guts cage, writing him off of television. So that was the Blood and Guts show for Wednesday night. And your rating for AEW was a 1.09, and they were the #1 televised show in in the United States on Wednesday night. And Wednesday night is looking like another phenomenal show, man. It is looking great Wednesday night, actually, as we are set to have a big card featuring New Japan Pro Wrestling legend Yuji Nagata challenging Jon Moxley for the IWGP United States Championship. SCU, Christopher Daniels, and Frankie Kazarian will challenge the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team titles. Miro will challenge Darby Allin for the TNT Championship. Pac will go one-on-one with Orange Cassidy as they are the number 2 and number 1 ranked in the AEW ranking system. And the winner of that match goes on to challenge Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing. And also, Cody Rhodes is set to make an announcement for what he will be doing at the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Speaking of Double or Nothing, Double or Nothing is set to have a full capacity crowd this May 30th. They are set to have a full capacity crowd for the May 30th Double or Nothing show. And that right there, folks, hearing Tony Khan go and bust it open and say that brings music to my ears. I miss the AEW sold-out crowds. I honestly feel like they, out of all wrestling companies, are going to benefit the most from having a sold-out crowd back. I cannot wait for this. I mean, WWE, they need a sold-out crowd, but even if they do have a crowd, I'm pretty sure Monday Night Raw is still going to be the same. With fans or no fans, it's going to be the same show. So, AEW, they need that energy. Yes, they have the Daly's Place, but let's be honest with you. I love Daly's Place. I've never been there before. I wish I went one time. But I will hopefully get there for an AEW show in the near future. But I'm getting tired of Dynamite being in the same venue, same location, same stage every single week. They change up the stages for the pay-per-views, but I'm tired of looking at the same venue every single week. And it's catching up to me. I was fine with it at first, but then in January, it's catching up to me, and I'm like, okay, they have Daly's Place, that's fine, but we gotta get moving. They gotta get moving. I'm seeing the same venue literally every single week. And while the 900, 1,000 people make noise, I think having more people would benefit. Just look at what happened at Blood and Guts, okay? Just look at what happened at the Blood and Guts show this past Wednesday. They had 1,500 people there. That was the most AEW pre-pandemic show I think AEW has ever had since the pandemic has ever started with the crowd. That crowd was on fire. That crowd Wednesday night was on fire for everything, particularly the Blood and Guts match. If you had told me that the crowd on Wednesday night was not a sold-out arena, I would not have believed you. I would not have believed you there. But that crowd was amazing Wednesday night. And the crowd, the full capacity, I mean, it's just going to be so good. So good to hear that full capacity crowd on May 30th for Double or Nothing. I'm going to put out a prediction right now that with everything lining up for Double or Nothing, getting a full crowd back. Double or Nothing is going to be the best pay-per-view of 2021. I'm telling you right now, here today on the podcast, that AEW Double or Nothing 2021 is going to be the best pay-per-view of the year. You can quote me on that. And if I'm wrong, then you know what? I'm wrong. But I'm going to say it here. Like I just said, that Double or Nothing is going to be the best pay-per-view of the year, I think. Looking at the card that's going to happen, can you imagine? I said this with Wesley Williams Wednesday night when we were talking about Blood and Guts. Can you imagine that crowd when Orange Cassidy is facing Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship? When Orange Cassidy is coming to the brisk of defeating Kenny Omega and winning the World Championship? That reaction is going to be unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't wait for it. I can't wait for the Double or Nothing card with what we're looking at and feuds. It's looking really good, man. It's looking really, really good. Probably going to watch it from home. Not going to be at Double or Nothing because I just went to WrestleMania and I got tickets for a Phillies game coming up. But I'm excited. I'm very excited to watch Double or Nothing. And I have no problem watching it from the comfort of my home. So I'm very excited. It brings me lots of joy to hear that Double or Nothing is going to have a full capacity show. And AEW is going to be back to touring in July. So I can expect some announcements at Double or Nothing for a touring schedule for AEW. Let's talk about Dark Side of the Ring with Brian Pillman. Thursday night on the Vice channel. This was a 2-part documentary. Now, I am going to say, last year, I did the Dark Side of the Ring reviews. After the documentary was over, I came on here, I did a quick review and all that stuff. That is not going to happen this year, unfortunately. And the reason that is because, like I said already, excuse me. I am already as busy as it is when it comes to school and content and all that stuff. So I figured I'm going to save the Dark Side of the Ring reviews for the weekend podcast here on the Big Fight Field channel. So that's what I'm here to do. And honestly, I thought this was a great documentary for Brian Pillman. Obviously, the kids went through a lot when he passed away. He had his first wife, I believe her name was Michelle, and then they broke up because of Melanie, which was Brian's second wife, and Michelle actually killed herself because of what some of the words Melanie was saying to her. So Melanie Pillman can go screw off. She is very evil. Don't like her. And, young Brian went through a lot, and the daughters went through a lot, and Steve Austin was very affected by this because Stone Cold Steve Austin was actually very good friends with Brian Pillman. They were a tag team back then called the Hollywood Blondes. So I would not be surprised if that's how Tony Khan got the idea of the Varsity Blondes with Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. So, and I also love how young Brian is trying to carry on that Pillman name as best as he possibly can in AEW, in MLW when he was the champion, and now in AEW with a tag team with Griff Garrison. And you know what? I am a bigger fan of Brian Pillman Jr. now than I was in the document before the documentary came out when for Brian Pillman. I hope AEW pushes him and Griff Garrison as a tag team, or if they want to push Brian Pillman as a singles guy on his own. But I hope that he does get a push in AEW. The guy deserves it. He's trying to carry on that Pillman legacy name. He is a real inspiration to a lot of people now. And, it was a great documentary. It was very emotional, too. A very emotional documentary. Some points you could almost shed a tear about, especially when, when I believe it was Jim Cornette when he said that he called a hotel that Brian stayed at. He said, "Hey, we have a wrestler in your hotel. His name's Brian Pillman, and can you go check where he is?" And they checked him, and they said he's dead. I'm like, oh my God! Like my jaw dropped to the ground when I heard that. That part was very, very emotional. So, yeah, very emotional documentary. It's a great documentary as well. If you guys have not checked it out already, I would go check it out. I would check it out if you had the Vice, or check it out on Vice.com. We're getting another documentary this week. They're getting, I believe, 6 documentaries. The next one is on Nick Gage. If you guys don't know who Nick Gage is he's a violent hardcore wrestler. Light tubes, thumbtacks, barbed wire, all that stuff. I'm excited for that Dark Side of the Ring documentary on Nick Gage on Thursday night. And I believe Moxley's on that documentary as well. I think he's going to be a part of that. So, that should be fun. That should be a good documentary. I'm excited for that one. And then, finally, we are going to wrap it up after this one. A little bit of a time saver for a podcast. Not that crazy. There wasn't really much wrestling news this week in the WWE. This is really the only WWE news I have for this week, with WrestleMania Backlash coming up next weekend. Hopefully we do get more news in the WWE coming up to WrestleMania Backlash next weekend. But the one news that I have in the WWE is with RK Bro. If you guys are a fan of RK Bro like myself, you are going to want to pay attention to this. So, it has been reported that this new partnership is not a short-term storyline, because WWE wants to push RK Bro going forward. Randy Orton had himself stated that he wanted to work with the former United States champion Matt Riddle, and Orton's chemistry is now being compared to that of Kane and Daniel Bryan from their time as Team Hell No. Regarding the future of the Raw Tag Team Champions, AJ Styles and Omos, according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, he stated that their feud with the New Day is likely over. He added that while RK Bro might not be challenging for the tag title soon, the likely plan is for them to get a shot eventually. He goes on to state, for the Raw Tag titles, AJ Styles and Omos beat the New Day in a matter of where you wouldn't think of a rematch giving 2 straight clean finishes. it feels early to go with Randy Orton and Matt Riddle as challengers, although at some point, that does look like the destination. So, it seems like WWE, man, they are going all in with RK Bro. Now, pump the brakes. Slow your roll. I will say this. You better not go out there and say, oh, we're not going to have short-term plans. This is a long-term thing. And then go on Monday Night Raw and have Randy Orton turn on Matt Riddle. If you plan on having this a long-term thing and pushing them, then you stick to the plan by pushing RK Bro. This is actually probably right now outside of Bobby Lashley, the only good thing on Monday Night Raw is this tag team. Very tired today. I don't know why, but is pushing this tag team of RK Bro. Now, as far as the tag team scene goes, yes, they're probably going to be the ones to take the tag titles off of AJ Styles and Omos, just for the simple fact that there is no other legit tag teams on Monday Night Raw, not counting the New Day, outside of the Viking Raiders, that has a chance of beating AJ and Omos for the Raw Tag Team Championships. And honestly, I don't think WWE is going to have the Viking Raiders be the team that is going to beat AJ and Omos for the tag team titles. I don't think it's going to be the Viking Raiders. So more than likely, more than likely, it's going to be RK Bro that beats AJ and Omos for the Raw Tag Team Championships, which, I mean, it doesn't surprise me because, like I said, there's no other legit tag teams that can possibly beat AJ and Omos outside of the Viking Raiders. So, and they clearly know Matt Riddle is very good at this. He is very good with these types of tag team role situations. He did it in NXT with Pete Dunne as the Broserweights. They ended up beating the Undisputed Era and winning the tag team titles, and everybody loved the Broserweights. And they had that good chemistry where Matt Riddle was the real goofy guy and Pete Dunne was that serious face that never smiled all the time. And they clearly know that this can work. This tag team of Orton and Riddle can work. And I think it's working right now. So hopefully they stick to the long-term plans of Randy Orton and Matt Riddle with RK Bro. And they don't break them up. And they don't break them up like that. So that's all of the WWE news this week. And that is actually everything I have for you today on the Big Fight Fuel podcast. So thank you all so much for joining me here today. If you have not already, be sure to hit the subscribe button, man. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. We are going to have a lot of content next week for you guys. 7 days of content. Every single day, we are going to have content up for you on the Big Fight Fuel channel. We're going to have Raw, unfortunately. We're going to have Raw tomorrow night. NXT with Cameron Johnson on Tuesday. AEW with Wesley Williams on Wednesday. Thursday night is going to be preview and predictions for WrestleMania Backlash. And I'm going to have my good friend, Win Brantley, here on the Big Fight Field channel to preview WrestleMania Backlash. I met him at WrestleMania this past year at Tampa at Raymond James Stadium. He's a great dude, really nice guy, and he's going to be on the channel Thursday night to preview WrestleMania Backlash. I'm very excited for that. Friday, SmackDown. Saturday is going to be the Big Fight Field podcast, episode 9. And then Sunday night will be your big review for WrestleMania Backlash right here on the Big Fight Field channel. So we got 7 days of content coming up in a row for you guys. I'm very excited. Comment down below your thoughts about various topics here on the channel today, such as Monday Night Raw, the state of that show, Brian Pillman's Dark Side of the Ring, AEW Blood and Guts being labeled as a bad image, and all of the stuff I talked about on the podcast today. Hit that like button. If you like what you heard from me on today's podcast, you can follow me on Twitter at Conlin_Joseph as well. And I will see you guys tomorrow night for the Raw review right here on the Big Fight Fuel channel. So have a good night, stay safe, and as always, stay classy.